Hi there. Well, here's today's Putting on Christ reading, which is from Hebrews 12, verse 26. If we look at the verse itself, which is just down here in front of me, at that time his voice shook the earth, but now as he's promised, once more I will shake not only the earth, but also the heavens. What is going on here? How does that affect us living through these times? And how can that be an encouragement to us right now? All right, let's put it into context. Here, we've got to go back slightly in Hebrews, and we'll just talk about the writer to the Hebrews saying, "You've now come to Mount Zion, the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem. You have come to thousands upon thousands of angels in joyful assembly, to the church of the firstborn." So we have become part of something incredible, something amazing. We have come through to what Paul, the writer to the Hebrews, we don't know if it's Paul or who it is, but we come through to Jesus, the mediator of a new covenant and of the sprinkled blood. This is the place of heavenly places that we now live in. And Paul, I'm doing it twice now. It's not Paul, it's the writer to the Hebrews, says, don't refuse him who speaks. Listen to what God has to say. And we move into verse 26. At that time, his voice shook the earth. He's referring back to when he talked about Moses earlier, shaking the earth at Mount Sinai. I mean, God's voice, it shakes, it stirs, it changes us, it speaks to us. It's something full of life. And he's saying, you won't want to turn away from that. And at that time, his voice shook the earth. That's that time where God spoke to his people, the beginnings of the old covenant. You don't want to turn away from that. But now this writer is saying, at once more, I will shake not only the earth, but the heavens. What happened before was amazing. But what happens this next time will shake not only the earth, but the heavens. And what the writer is referring to is there's going to come a time. It's called the end times. It's called the time when Jesus will return and come back for us. At that time, there will be such a shaking, such a turning upside down, because people will see God for who he really is. It's not referring to God shaking the earth in a time like we're living through at the moment with coronavirus, although it is true that people are being shaken. That's not what is being referred to here. They're being shaken in their ways of understanding the world, their ways and beliefs, and it is a powerful time for people to think and investigate and understand God more, whether they don't yet know him or whether you do yet know him. When the familiar is taken away from us, when the familiar is no longer there as it just was, it does make us think of God. There is a shaking, and God does do a shaking. But what is referring to here with the shaking of the heavens and the earth, this once more shaking, is of a time in the future when Jesus is coming back. But what Paul, I've done it a third time now. What the writer to the Hebrews says is that we are actually receiving a kingdom right now that cannot be shaken. And even in this returning time, when the heavens and the earth are shaken, the kingdom of God will not be shaken. We are that which will not be shaken. We have a certainty, we have a security, we have a place with God forever. Therefore, in verse 28, since we are receiving a kingdom that cannot be shaken, let us be thankful and so worship God acceptably with reverence and awe, for our God is a consuming fire. Our God is powerful. Our God is amazing. The power of God can burn away the sin and dross in our lives. But we have a kingdom that cannot be shaken. It says, let us be thankful. It also means the word is from charis, grace. Therefore, let us hold fast to the grace that we have to enable us to go on, to worship God acceptably. And this is not just worshiping God in the traditional way we might consider worship. This is about worship in terms of service to God. It's the same word. Let us not ignore the grace we have to serve God acceptably with reverence and awe. Some friends of mine are doing extra work at a food bank, homeless shelter right now. They're doing it with reverence and awe in order to, they're serving people. They're taking the love of God to people, but they're doing it. It is a worship to God. As we help our neighbors in this time, as we connect with people we perhaps wouldn't normally connect, as we do things for people, it is actually worship to God. And this is one of the great things where God has shaken us as a church, where we've traditionally thought of worship, praise is just Sunday mornings, it's just being a congregation. And I think God is expanding our minds to show that our worship for him is 24/7. Sure, Sunday mornings are very important. We're still doing a live stream, but this is an amazing time of the church discovering we need to be church in our homes, and we need to be church all the time. And you see this, that even after the writer to the Hebrews, I got it right that time, after the writer to the Hebrews has talked of this marvelous kingdom that cannot be shaken, the very next bit sort of roots being part of that shaking kingdom that cannot be shaken in real life. Because even after saying, and so worship God or serve God with reverence and awe, our God is a consuming fire, the very next verse is, keep on loving one another as brothers and sisters. Don't forget to show hospitality to strangers. You see, it's so easy to get so sort of super spiritual and hung up on the consuming fire. These things are good. It's good to be lost in the presence of God, but we should be so lost in the presence of God that we love one another as brothers and sisters, and even more than just the brothers and sisters of our church family. Don't forget to show hospitality to strangers. In fact, the writer says that by doing so, some have even shown hospitality to angels without knowing it. That's pretty awesome, isn't it? Hospitality to angels. But I just love that in the midst of these things, of the shaking of the earth, of the coming back of Jesus, of the consuming fire, of being enabled by the grace to serve God in reverence and awe and praise. How do we do that, God? What complicated things are we going to do? What clothes have we got to wear? Keep on loving one another as brothers and sisters, and don't forget to show hospitality to strangers. You want to worship God? You want to sow your life to the Lord. You want to be part of this kingdom that cannot be shaken. Let's love one another and show hospitality to strangers. I hope you've enjoyed the reading today. It's good to keep on doing these, and hopefully see you tomorrow. God bless and keep safe.